Oh, hello, friend. Come, join us by the fire. The story's about to begin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Fireside Dice. I am your game master tonight, Jens Anderson, and we're back. We're ready to go back to Innistrad and see what's happening. But before I get into the recap, because I'll do that today. I have thoughts about what happened. I will have all of our characters introduce themselves. So, let's hear.
Hi, I'm Leven. I'm not Leven. I'm Emma. I play Leven.
I am Josh, and I play Bafuur.
I'm Riley, and I'm playing as Suri.
And I am Skylar, and I am playing Bard Dad Bartholomew.
So, last time we broke camp, we went to the town of Lammas here in the Outland Valleys of Innistrad. And much like in episode 2, our players have managed to use all the shortcuts. It was like they were trying to speedrun this campaign. We got all of the right hooks. We ended up talking to all the correct NPCs. We skipped all the cutscenes. I mean, they full-blown just skipped over, I think it was 2 or maybe even 3 side quests that they could have done.
It was 3.
It was 3.
Okay.
It was 3.
Yep.
And not only that, because the team split, they were able to divide their efforts. And we had one side that was skipping through the town and all of those cutscenes and dialogues, and the other team immediately found out the secret of the Bitter Hearts, and found out that there was a clan of vampires here too. So, what's a game master to do at this point? Just reward them for their efforts and decide, okay, we're going.
And punish them later.
Yes, and that's what's happening today, is punishment. The just retribution of an angry god.
He's like, you dare skip the XP from my side quests? See what happens.
So, we are resuming, just leaving the Bitterheart camp and the town of Lammas, and making our way towards Needle Eye Pass, and eventually the Moonsilver Temple and the ancient holdings of the Duskin vampire line and the human line previously. So, with a cart in tow, the team is on their way out. We have Kazimir Velekov, who is our guide and a member of the Duskin line, and we have all 4 of our characters. So, with that in mind, what would you all like to do?
Are we just now leaving the camp, or have we been traveling for a little bit?
You've been traveling for maybe 30 minutes. You're getting to the point where like the town is behind you and you're able to have free conversation without being overheard.
Okay. Roughly what time of day is it? Like, how much time do we have before nightfall?
So you guys would have broken camp, gone into town, spent most of the morning, so it would be early afternoon.
Okay.
At the absolute latest.
Hey, Casimir, about what time, how long would you say it'll take us to get to your family's holdings?
I would say that the Moonsilver Temple is about 5, maybe 6 days.
Okay.
Most of that will be relatively smooth, I think. It's once we get to Needle Eye Pass that I get worried.
Is there anything that we should know about Needle Eye Pass?
The Needle Eye Pass is the quickest way to get between the Outland Valleys and towards the areas of Kessig, Gavany, and all of that. However, it goes very close to the center point of evil in this world, the Ashmouth Peaks. Now, the Duskin Line and the Dusk Flight of Angels originally set up the Moonsilver Temple to try and keep this at bay. This was thousands of years ago.
Okay.
Which is why the temple is there. However, evil has since spread, and the temple was overrun, due in no small part to the formation of vampires.
Overrun by what exactly?
All manner of evil. Demons, vampires, werewolves. You name something monstrous here, it has probably been held or has overrun this place.
That's pleasant.
As so many things in this place are. I'm not much of a churchgoer myself. I don't subscribe to the Church of Avacyn. It's, one, against my very nature as a vampire, and two, I don't think my ancestors would be proud. They were so close to the Dusk Flight that when the angels, that order collapsed, that our family line also just about collapsed. And I don't think we've ever fully recovered.
If your family was so integrated with this lost flight of angels, and the angels in the Church of Avacyn, from what I've been taught, are kind of one and the same, why would that cause a rift between your family and the church?
There's a hierarchy to them as well.
To the angels?
Yes, at least from what I've been told. Most priests of the humans would tell you that the angels all get along. I can tell you that it's not always been so. And with this, Suri, you have a book of Abyssinian scripture, do you not?
Yeah, if I didn't give it to Annabelle.
So I'd be fine with saying that, yeah, you've got it back.
Okay.
I'll just go ahead and start reading this out directly.
What is this from? Is this being relayed
This
to
is
us?
from the Plane Shift Innistrad. This is more meta-knowledge rather than character knowledge.
But
Okay.
is this the stuff that Suri gets from the book?
Yeah.
In substance, but not in exact form.
Okay.
In theory, okay.
So Bartholomew can act upon this knowledge because he has read that book.
Yes, from cover to cover. So, Avestin was the Archangel of Innistrad, revered across the plane as the source of hope, of protection, and of the blessed rest, a peaceful eternity of slumber in the grave. She offered the faithful magical wards against vampires and werewolves, a tranquil oblivion rather than the damned fate of a tormented spirit or undead abomination, and a distant hope that someday their descendants might live in an Innistrad free from all the horrors of darkness. Traditionally, 3 groups of angels known as flights or hosts serve Avacyn, each under the leadership of a lesser archangel. These 3 flights are Flight Alabaster. They are instrumental in maintaining the wards. They prefer to use spells instead of weapons, engaging battle only when they've exhausted all other options. A lot of what they do is focus on aiding priests and cathars, and so like the clerics and paladins, and helping with that spell casting. The Host of Herons is the second flight. The Host of Herons comprised the angels of birth, rebirth, and purity, whose magic is said to ward humans against harm in life. This is the smallest of the flights of angels, and its primary function is scouting and tracking of werewolves and other marauding monsters. Sigarda is the leader of the Host of Herons, wielding a scythe with the head being shaped like a heron. The third of these flights is Flight Gold Knight. It's an army of soldier angels, and these are the ones that most often come down for like interventions. These are the warriors, the strategists in battle, and the leader of this flight, well, I didn't ever give you the leader of Flight Alabaster. That would be Bruna, the Light of Alabaster. Flight Gold Knight, their leader is Gisela, the Blade of Gold Knight, or the Blade of the Church. And for those of you who are familiar with the MTG story, a lot of these names do pop up quite a bit. There are other lesser flights that are listed in the Book of Scripture. They're not of immediate concern, other than a list of lost flights and what they went over. The Dusk Flight is one of those that is listed as being lost completely, and that they were one of the oldest flights of angels.
So this is, I guess, me, Emma, asking. So in this world, the angels are basically the acting deities.
Yes.
Basically.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. Avacyn's at the head.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some fun lore about her that our characters wouldn't know because it's not
The
common
characters
knowledge.
don't know, but it seems like Kazimir has hinted at.
Did the book say anything about what happened to the Dusk Flight? Does it give any clues to why they're gone?
The accusation was made against them of consorting with darker powers. As to whether that's a reference to the Moonsilver Temple, one of their oldest holdings being at the heart of darkness of the world, or if it's they delved into secrets that they shouldn't have and thus were destroyed, you don't know exactly. But it says that they consulted with darker things.
Okay. I think over the course of the trek as we're going, some of the things that Bart would be trying to do is continuing to question Kazimir about the kinds of things that we'll be running into and the best ways to handle them. Like, if we run into a werewolf, what should we do? If we run into other vampires, what's the best course of action? Or demons, how do you even deal with a demon? Just trying to get an idea of what to be prepared for in case, or not in case, for when we run into something. Because on Innistrad, you're always going to run into something.
So the main advice that is given is silvered weapons and magic weapons, making sure that you have those two, like some sort of enchantment or something that's silvered. And he has a couple of bottles of a alchemical thing that applies the silver metal type temporarily. It lasts for 1 hour per use.
Ooh, that would actually be really handy.
So everyone can write down that they have 3 applications of this alchemical silver.
That is really good for Bafuur.
Yeah.
In terms of enchanting items, he does not have any skill in that regard, but he is willing to help out should combat happen.
I think as the group is walking, who was it that briefly told Leven about the merfolk of Innistrad? Was it Suri?
Mm-hmm.
Was Suri? Okay, that's what I thought. I think as they're walking, Leven would kind of either fall back or speed up. So she's in stride with Suri, and she would ask, you told me recently about the merfolk of Innistrad, and I think you described them as monsters, as beasts. I was just curious to know how they were beasts. Just curious.
Well, they're not. First of all, they're not as well mannered as you are. But from the ones I've seen, they like to. They're just. They tend to eat whatever they can find, whether it's be rats or people or just anything. And I just have not had very many good experiences with Innistrad merfolk, but
Most of them, I would say, are off the coast of Nephalia and almost act like sirens.
Do you think it's because they want to be that way? Or is it a drive?
everything here on Innistrad has a certain drive to be darker, if that makes any sense.
It does. Thank you for humoring my curiosity.
And
I appreciate it.
she'll stop. She'll let Leven and her stop to let the group get a little bit further ahead, and Suri will just say, "I really didn't mean to frighten you with my magic. If I did,
Sorry, no. Frightened was the last thing that I felt. Don't worry. She'll start walking again.
Alright, and Suri will follow behind."
About 2 or 3 days into the journey, unless anyone else has character interactions or stuff.
I'll just add that Bafuur is going to be, again, unwittingly, but casting communicate or speak with animals continuously throughout the journey to have Nutty the squirrel go on ahead in the tree line and just see what he can see and report back after he's gotten a snack or whatever it is he's doing.
And at some point, Nutty asks you, "So where are we going?"
Some temple with a moon.
The The ruined scary place? Or away?
Probably a ruined, scary place.
No. No, ruined scary place in the forest.
Which ruins are you talking about? Are they close?
We're close.
Okay. 1 second. Hey, Kazimir,
Yeah?
is there a temple or a ruins of a temple nearby where we are right now?
Heron Light's Hold is nearby from what I remember.
Is there anything in particularly important about that place?
An angelic ruin? I'm certain that there's some level of importance, but it's not one that I would be aware of.
Bafuur is going to continue to converse with Nutty. Have you ever seen any weird creatures go in and out of that ruins?
All sorts of weird things. Everything's weird.
Is there anything particularly scary about those ruins? Do you want to go to them, or would you want to avoid them?
Me? I avoid. And if we leave the forest, I stay in forest.
While Balfour's having this conversation with Nutty, based on the little bit that he heard between Balfour and Kazimir, he's going to ask Kazimir, with what you know about this ruins, would it be a good place to camp for the night if need be? Like, would we be able to protect ourselves better there than just in the trees or out in the open? Or do you think that's the kind of place that would be better left untouched?
Everywhere is a place that we want to leave untouched.
True.
The question is that a place that the Fiend would be watching? And I think it would be. Is it something that would be safe? Possibly, from a standpoint of we'd have cover. But I think that it's a more likely location to be scouted out.
Leven at that point, she will pipe up. I was under the impression that we were trying to avoid the eyes of Lord Mauer at all costs. I really don't think that this is an advisable path.
Yeah, we're already being watched by him as it is. I don't want to give him more opportunities to figure out what we're doing, so I vote we move on.
Thank you.
And with that, within an hour, there's a crossroads that you can see. The trail leading away from it isn't fully overgrown. There's like a pilgrimage that would go there every once in a while. But it's definitely a road that does not see as much use. And you continue on your path towards Needle Eye Pass and eventually the Moonsilver Temple.
As we're traveling, Balfour's the one that has that medallion that we found, right?
Yes.
Okay. During one of the nights, as we're resting, Bartholomew's going to ask if he can see it and just study it and just like pose the question to the group. Why were we sent after this? I can't tell what this would do.
Well, you guys haven't taken a heavy look into the amulet itself, so let me go ahead and give you a deeper description than what you've got. This holy symbol, this amulet, thick, heavy gold chain and a bright silver, it would sit on the chest and be very large ornament. It's ultimately shaped like a sun with a bright, not full-blown like ruby red, but a pale pink gemstone in the center.
Sounds incredibly tacky.
It kind of is, but considering that this is probably one of like those very early artifacts of religion, it would be in keeping.
I guess.
That's what you get in looking at it.
Can I roll an Arcana check as Bartholomew's looking at it to see if he can glean that there is something of arcane nature about this artifact?
You could roll Arcana check. I'm going to tell you that it won't be quite as good as if you were to roll a religion check.
Okay. I think he's going to go with Arcana because he's not as familiar with the religion of the land.
Yeah,
This
I don't
is
know that
mostly just Bartholomew looking at it, trying to figure it out in the ways that he knows how. That's a natural 1, so he knows nothing about this amulet.
You were like, this is so gaudy, and frankly, it gives you flashbacks to ornamentation that your family would wear and that nobility would wear. And so that for you triggers some less than fun responses.
Pretty sure I saw Lord Fiddlesworth wearing something like this once. Ugh.
May I take a look at it?
Sure. And he'll hand it off to Suri, but keep an eye on her as she looks at it.
All right. And Suri will pull out her dad's book, and we're all sitting around a camp, right?
This is at the campsite.
Okay, yeah. She'll pull out her dad's book and just start looking through it and like trying to like find something that looks anything like it. And while doing that, she will ritual cast Identify for 10 minutes.
Okay, so as you sit and you're looking over this thing for 10 minutes, it's not something that you get from the book.
Oh, okay.
Not from this book.
But from the other one?
You end up pulling out the Book of Abyssinian Scripture, and it talks about sects and cults to avoid. And it says that Ravenkin have a holy symbol of their own. You turn this thing over and over, and you reach in and find out that this is the holy symbol of Ravenkind. That this thing was, according to the Church of Avacyn, a cult. But you know better. You know that cults have a different sort of power here on Innistrad, and that the Church of Avacyn is fairly bigoted. According to legend, this was delivered to a paladin by a guardian spirit, and that this is a holy symbol that is specifically tailored against vampires. In terms of mechanics, here's what you find out. And there's no real good way to describe this in character.
There never is.
The holy symbol has 10 charges and the following properties. It gains a d6 plus 4 charges every day. For 1 charge, you can hold vampires, and vampires spawn within 30 feet. They need to make a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, they're paralyzed for a full minute. It can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns to end the effect.
So that's like hold person, but hold vampire?
Yes. And it's all vampires within a 30-foot radius.
Oh, all of them.
Whoa!
Oh.
That is big.
That's huge.
For
That's-
3 charges.
Holy.
For 3 charges, you can use the Turn Undead or Turn the Unholy feature. When you have the holy symbol present doing, you need to have the holy symbol present doing this. When you do so, undead have disadvantage on their saving throws against this effect. For 5 charges, you can use the holy symbol to shed bright light in a 30-foot radius and dim light for an additional 30 feet. The light is sunlight and lasts for 10 full minutes.
Wow.
Or until you choose to end this effect. The sad part about this is that it requires attunement by a cleric or paladin of good alignment. But that's alignment. In terms of this, Bafuur would absolutely apply.
That'd be the only one, right?
You're the only cleric of our group.
Alrighty then. I guess I'm
For a
attuning
second
it.
there, I forgot he's a cleric, and I was like, none of us can use this. What the heck?
So I would imagine that I would hand Bafuur the book, like on the page where it's describing that, and the amulet as well.
So, now that we know what this thing is, any other conversations around the fire?
I think outside of studying this amulet and trying to figure out what it is, Bartholomew's going to spend a good chunk of his time at the campsites with his own journal out, taking notes. Depending on how perceptive Suri is, she's probably caught him glancing in her direction multiple times.
She is fairly perceptive.
So yeah, she's probably seen it. He has completely lost his sense of joviality, and like he is in a constant state of concern and somberness, and is constantly in deep thought. Frequently plays with his locket, opens it sometimes, and kind of reserved, which is unusual for him.
After putting the amulet on and thanking Suri for the information in the book, Bafuur's gonna walks over to Bart and sits down and just says, "Hey, that's an interesting locket you have."
Yes, I actually got it on Kaladesh from a friend of mine there.
I can tell. You can see the craftsmanship from where I was sitting.
I was wondering if you would notice it. Yeah, during my time on Kaladesh, before I met you, I met an Aetherborn she was a very rambunctious, very bubbly person. But she had a friend she was blind but had this innate sense for people's emotions. And I spent a lot of time with these two and got to know them very well and kind of told them a little bit of my story. And using a combination of the blind girl's powers and the Aetherborn's ingenuity for crafting, they created this locket for me. And he'll pop it open and the holographic image of his family pops up and he says, they were able to somehow pull a memory from my head of what my family looked like and design this locket in such a way that it showed that memory. It reminds me of where I came from and who I've lost, why I am the way that I am.
It's always good to be reminded, as long as it doesn't drag us down and away from what they would want us to become.
That's my thoughts exactly. This locket kind of serves as a reminder of who my wife saw when she saw me. It reminds me of who I want to be in their memory. He's going to glance over at Bafuur after thinking over his statement again. He's like, do you have something like that, something to remind you of where you've come from?
I mean, I wear the vestiges of my home, my armor of the city guard, my axe of my father's design and intuition, born with, similar to yours, another Aetherborn's ingenuity for embedding and imbuing mechanical objects. Unfortunately, I carry a darker reminder, I would say.
Really?
Yeah.
What's
I
that?
have an incessant hatred for goblins, as you know.
Yes, I figured that out, and I've been curious about that, because from all my time on Kaladesh, I don't remember ever meeting any goblins.
No, on Kaladesh we have other creatures, like, I don't know if you've ever heard of a kobold. Similar to a goblin, kind of like them. They're annoying, but they keep to themselves for the most part. No, goblins are not home to Kaladesh. They come from other worlds that we did not know about until they came to ours. Unfortunately, those goblins took the city, or took much of it, did as much damage as they could, left my father dead in their wake. My mother, I don't know if she was dead or alive. And my brother, they carried off into the mountain giant's icy fortress, and I have not seen him since.
I'm so sorry.
I tried to get him back, but when the mountain giants started to try to tear my limbs off, I woke up and I was in a different world. Makes more sense now, but doesn't make it easier.
I was wondering what triggered your spark. That makes sense.
You see him kind of rubbing his shoulder as if there's like a phantom pain still left behind.
Well, hopefully we can conclude our business with Vincenzo as quickly as possible, and maybe I can help you get back. We can see if we can find your brother.
If he's alive, eventually I'll find him.
If we can't find him, I hope I can help you find closure.
Closure, unfortunately, for me, may be found in the brutality of waging war against a world.
Bart chuckles and doesn't push back against the idea.
Later that evening, everyone's taking watch. And Bart, you take your watch. You don't take the first watch because Kazimir is going to stay up with everyone. He doesn't need to sleep. And he said, "You don't need to stay awake. I can keep an eye on things."
I appreciate that. I've gotten the rest that I need. I think I've got a little too much on my mind to really go to sleep anyway, so I figured I might as well stay up.
Still early.
Do we have any sort of light source, or am I just sitting in pitch black talking to the darkness?
No, you guys do have a fire.
Okay.
A small cook fire, just enough to shed light around the campsite, but...
Okay.
And this is still early on in the night. This would be... You would have been taking the first watch with Kazimir.
Okay. Then, yeah. he'll say, I think I need some time to clear my head anyway. There's a lot going on, not just with our current mission at hand, but I don't think my mind is ready to sleep yet.
I can appreciate that sentiment. It's been a long time since I've truly rested. And to be honest, I've actually never gone to the Moonsilver Temple myself. This is a new experience for me. But I can't imagine the situation that you and your friends are going through. Just based off of what I've heard the last few days, there's certainly some interesting folk that you carry.
Yeah, I tend to collect the eccentric and odd.
You are no less so. And I can see you're a man who carries heavy burdens and tries to carry everyone else's with him. At some point, it breaks you, like it broke me.
I find some relief in helping people. Seeing the smiles on a child's face when you help them, or the looks of gratitude from people, it holds back the burden, if only for a minute. Kind of helps to remind me that the world isn't all bad. There is still good out there. There are still reasons for living.
Then you're a braver man than I. Take a rest.
Okay. Bart will lay down. He probably won't fall asleep for another little while, just sitting there thinking, but eventually he will fall asleep and take his rest.
And it's when you fall asleep that's when the really interesting thing happens.
Of course it is.
Initially, you don't think that you're going to dream. And because most often you don't, you have nightmares. Old memories returning. But on this particular occasion, you find that you are back in Shadowgrange, back hanging out with Father Donovich, sitting on the front porch with him and talking about fatherhood and stuff like that. And the conversation leads into wayward children. And Father Donovich asks you, how is it that you dealt with your child?
Not very well, I'm afraid. I was required to be away from home quite often. And when I was home, I did the best I could to try and make her happy. I would bring her presents, and I would tell her stories, and I would try to listen. But I think too often I tried to defend my parents and my siblings for their behavior. I think I tried too hard to force her to accept them despite their penchant for abuse, mostly verbally. I tried, but I guess that's all we can do.
And as you're looking down while saying this, you finish, and as you turn and look up, it's not Father Donovich there anymore. And you see Streffen Mauer say, then why didn't you just kill them? It makes things so much easier, Salins.
Bart's gonna stand up and just glare at him and say, because I believe life is precious. I will never take it away from someone. And he turns and starts walking away.
You think you can leave me? This is your mind. Yes, I'm here, but you are well and truly asleep.
How much control over this dreamscape do I have?
I need you to make a wisdom saving throw.
That's a 6.
As you try and walk away, the scenery collapses down around you, and you're inside of the chapel, fully broken, torn apart. You think you can run away? No, Salins. I will be satisfied.
Recognizing my lack of control, Bart's gonna stand up a little straighter, square his shoulders, and put back on the noble persona that he carried himself in back on Dominaria, and he's going to turn, he's going to march right up to Streffen Mauer face to face, and he's going to say, "And what do you want?"
I want you to roll an intimidation check.
That's a good roll. What's my modifier? 25.
25? How much of this is a facade, and how much are you literally like, let's hash this out right here, right now?
It's mostly just he is done with this guy. He is ready to just, like, even if he dies doing it, he is sick of this guy, and the amount of his history that Streffen brings back to him, the people that he had to deal with, the people that drove his family to their death, he is tired of what Streffen Mauer represents.
What a brave face. I know that you're the one that I talk to the most, but the little stunt that you pulled, bringing in Withengar, I can't abide by that.
Nor can I.
Is that why you're leaving then? Oh, I'm very much aware of where your progress is. You're leaving my little area. Do you want to get rid of Withengar? I can help with that.
You can do nothing for me.
Are you worried about what I'll do to you?
As he starts laughing, Bartholomew punches him in the face.
Streffen Mauer stands there as he leans his head back, cackling. You give him an uppercut, and it feels like you're hitting a brick wall. And he looks down. Oh, I like you all the more. You think you're driving from a position of power. You think that you can truly be a threat. You have been a plaything to me, an amusement. But if you're done with our little game, I can end you any time I wish.
I don't think Bart's gonna say anything. He's just gonna maintain his stance right in front of Streffen, staring him in the eye. Not gonna say anything.
Going for silence. Maybe that's what I'll call you now instead of Silence. I mean, I know that's not your true name, Master Evenant. So, you tell me what name I should put on the wedding invite, and I'll send it to you.
He stays silent.
Silence it is. I figured I'd change that vowel for you. Anyway, expect my messenger sooner rather than later. We've chosen the colors and everything. And with that, he is going to go ahead and walk out, and your dreamscape, it collapses down around you, leaving you in a void from which you can dream, wake up, or decide to sink back into oblivion.
He's gonna stay asleep, but he doesn't dream anymore. And any onlookers will notice that his body, while resting, is still tense. But he'll stay asleep for the rest of his long rest.
In the morning, as he's getting the cart put back together, Kazimir looks at the four of you and is like, "Did you put this here?" And he holds up an envelope.
Bartholomew, knowing instantly what it is, walks over and grabs it from him, says, "No, but I know where it came from," and he opens it up to read it.
The message is pretty succinct, saying that in 2 weeks' time, you have been cordially invited to the union of Streffen Mauer and Irina, his soon-to-be bride. And there's a postscript to this one in particular that says, "Oh, Silence, I haven't turned her yet. I'll save that for the wedding night."
Unless anyone else expresses interest in this note, he's going to put it back in the envelope and go toss it into the coals of the fire.
Leven won't express interest, but me being kind of a troll. What are the colors?
Red and black. It's a very on brand. Yeah.
basic.
Tacky.
I think this morning, for anyone that's paying attention, because I like to do this, Bart's shaking. Like his fingers have a slight tremble to him in everything that he does. And while he got his sleep, he does not look rested at all.
With a passive perception of 14, would Bafuur notice that?
More than likely.
Bafuur's gonna walk up behind him and kind of pat him on the back and just say, "You don't look like you slept too well. Have some bacon." And offer up some morning breakfast.
Bart accepts the bacon. Thank you, Bafuur. He starts chomping on it. Had a nightmare. Nothing more.
You said you knew where the letter came from?
Yes.
How do you know where it came from?
Streffen was in my head last night.
Like he was on your mind?
He was in my head. Those dreams were not my own.
I'm sorry, you're only telling us this now?
It happened last night. It doesn't mean anything. It's the same information we've already had. He's watching us. He knows what we're doing. He's not happy about Withengar's involvement, and he'll glance over at Suri.
I'm sorry, Withengar.
Yep.
What does Withengar have to do with any of this?
Streffenmauer is not the only fiend who has an interest in our company's progress.
And Kazimir just looks at all of you in turn and is very suspicious at this point. What did I get myself into?
I think Leven would pipe up because she can see he is not well. He's shaken. Also with a passive perception of 14. Are you well enough to carry on today? Do what's needed?
Yes. Whatever it takes.
Insight. May I roll insight on that?
Sure.
That's 16.
16.
Yeah.
I think with that, you can tell that he's earnest. He means it. He's going to do whatever it takes. And you briefly recall the conversation the two of you had at the Bitterheart camp.
Yeah.
But he means it when he says he's going to do whatever it takes.
And she's gonna give him a very intense look for a good few seconds, just kind of evaluating him objectively, because obviously he's in it, and when you're in the middle of something, you can't always give an accurate reflection of what you're actually feeling, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she's just basically doing her own assessment before she'll just nod and deem his response acceptable. If he wants to carry on, then they'll carry on.
And he'll make moves to start moving.
If you need to sit in the cart with me, we can have that be fine.
I can walk. I'm fine.
Don't forget to share the load.
All right. Then let's set out.
Next day and a half is relatively uneventful as you start getting into the foothills and the trees start to thin. And Nutty, you can see, is getting more and more agitated as there are becoming less and less trees.
You don't like it outside of the forest, do you?
No. It makes me go nutty.
Do you want to stay behind when we leave?
Yes.
You don't want to come with me? It's up to you. I will not make you do something that you are uncomfortable with.
I like you, and I really like my home. You're coming back?
Hopefully.
And Nutty looks up at you very earnestly with that.
We are going to a dangerous place. It's likely that none of us will make it back. All we can do is hope.
And with that, he sits on his hind, and he has his paws up, and he taps on your chest as he just says, "You're coming back."
Okay.
Look at the dude.
I'll come back.
And with that, he seems satisfied, hops off your beard, and goes into the trees. There's a couple more nights where Streffenmauer comes. Well, no, there's one other time where Streffenmauer comes into your dreams. Did you get my invitation? I expect you to arrive on time. Unless, of course, you don't want to come.
I'll see what I can do.
Don't take too long. You don't want to keep Irina waiting, do you? Just a sigh. Perhaps I need to visit some of your friends. Maybe they'll be more entertaining than you are. More receptive to conversation.
His features don't move.
You're not worth my time.
Bart smiles.
It was a very short interaction, and you can tell that you're getting to him.
Good.
There's an ego there. But it does also leave you wondering, will he make good on that threat of contacting your friends and using them to get to you? Leven, you've also been having dreams. Not ones with vampire visitations, but you've been under the effects of a Gios spell.
I have.
There's almost like there's two sides of you warring, and this manifests in your dreams. It's almost like you've got two copies of yourself, one that's sitting at home and one that's just outside of your home. And you have a conversation with yourself most of these nights talking about, why did I even get into this? Where are the ones that I fought with? Are they dead? Are they doing the same thing that I am? And if so, where are they? Why can I not go home? I want to. I've been gone for too long. And the lives that you've led, many of them, over many ages of time, there's that fear of what happens when it all ends.
Yeah.
And there's not the chance of rebirth. Just a little tidbit for you there.
Yeah. I think it's something that would definitely, and these are thoughts she has them in the waking hours too. This is not just her dreams, but it's probably when these thoughts and these debates are at their most vivid. And I don't think that she would let much of this on to the others that she's traveling with, but it's something that does occupy her.
And I think that's part of the reason as to why she's so driven to get this done as fast as possible.
Absolutely.
Suri, your patron has been oddly silent since the old bone grinder. And that whole night where he told you, be careful what you wish for. You might need to choose between me and your group that you're traveling with.
He's very pragmatic, I'll give him that.
And as you passed by Heron Light's Hold, all those memories of your father and your first journey and how you ended up finding your magic came to you. And now as you're leaving that behind and going up to the Moonsilver Temple and Needle Eye Pass, and where your father was initially heading, there are the thoughts of, is this what my dad would have wanted? And in your heart, you're thinking yes. But there's that second side of you, that part that's connected to your patron. And there's a fear there. Would you like to roll me an insight check?
I wouldn't say that I would like to.
Would you like to hear the results of rolling an insight check?
Oh, jeez. I've got an 11.
You're choosing to hope. And in choosing to hope, you are trying to shut out any semblance of fear. So you're not acknowledging that other piece of yourself, and you are actively trying to not hear your patron.
Okay.
Getting out of the foothills, Kazimir says, if we don't reach the temple by the end of this day, it will be very soon tomorrow. We're coming up into the pass itself. I'm aware that the Fiend has made some level of defenses against people going here, likely more to protect his own form of livestock than out of any genuine care. And with that, you see coming up ahead of you, the pass is a very narrow ledge with a not quite sheer cliff on one side and a deep drop off to the other. And you can tell, getting up into the higher part of the pass, that yes, there was apparently some provision made against or for travelers that has a small curtain wall and a tower that keep this place from being accessed readily.
Does it appear to be manned?
You don't see anyone manning it. You can see that there are statues, both of humans and angels, on the tower itself, and of these large, not full-blown demons, but winged creatures that hang above the portcullis. And inside, just behind the portcullis, which is currently closed, there's a curtain wall of green flame that doesn't look like it has any sort of source, and that doesn't appear to be natural.
Is this something that we can get through, Kazimir?
Do you have anti-magical protections?
It's gonna suck if we don't.
We can try and climb around, but once again, we would have to leave the cart. Take whatever we can on our backs.
What sort of fire is this?
Roll me a nature check.
15.
You can tell that this is a magical fire, that this was conjured here and is a permanent enchantment and a feature of this place. Your best guess is that it will be very painful to go through, but if you hit it with some sort of abjurative magic, that you might be able to dispel it for a bit.
Question. So are the flames, are they just like a solid block? We can't see through them at all? Or are we able to see hints of what's on the other side?
Roll a perception check for me.
That is an 18.
You can tell you're used to looking through murk and gloom and darkness and all sorts of stuff. And looking through this, you can tell that there doesn't seem to be anything behind it other than the path that turns slightly, goes back around this edge of the mountain, and you would guess that there's a bridge somewhere on the other side of this, probably between two mountains.
Okay. So, in that case, I would actually... I don't know how smart this is, but I would like to... There's shadows nearby, right? And shadows on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to step into a shadow on our side of the gate and then walk and teleport to a shadow on the other side of the gate that is within 60 feet that I can see with my shadow step feature.
That's super cool.
Wow.
So
No lead up to it, but...
She just disappears.
you go behind the cart, step into the shadow there, and you step out from the shadow of the tower on the other side of this curtain wall.
Okay.
And looking at it from this side, if this was a border post, there's no guards, there's no people. This place seems entirely abandoned.
Does it look like there's any mechanisms on this side to disrupt that flame, that fire? Or is it just there on this end too?
So there are two different features that are leading through this gate.
Right.
There's the portcullis, which there's a mechanism to raise, you would guess, on this side.
Okay.
And then the flame is just set behind that, almost like a little wall in itself that goes and then adjoins to the wall on either side of the portcullis.
Right.
And you don't see any lever or switch or anything that would say, hey, I'm in charge of the fire.
Okay. Baby steps then. Leven is going to... She's going to call out and say, I found a mechanism that should raise the portcullis. And she will actually... she'll start to use it.
Did any of us see Leven make that little shadow transition?
I don't think you did. So now you just hear Levin's voice from the other side of the wall.
And Bafuur, who was carefully inspecting the fire.
Bart's like whipping around looking for her. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What?
So Do you want me to roll anything to raise the portcullis, or can I just?
No, it's a pretty easy
Okay.
mechanism. Well, there's a little bit of stickage, rust, lack of use, that sort of thing. But
Okay.
you get it working.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'll raise the portcullis, so that's just one less thing on our path. And then I'll step back again with shadow step. It's unlimited use. Step back into the shadow and appear. I think you said it was around back of the wagon, and walk back to join the group.
What?
And she'll say,
How did you do that?
"Can you not do that?"
No. I don't know anyone who can. Except you, apparently.
Well, now you do. I raised the portcullis, so it's one less thing on our path.
So now I just have to deal with the fire.
Does anybody have anything that could be useful against this?
I don't have anything for pre-existing magical effects.
Yeah, I have detect magic, so I could tell you that fire is indeed magic.
No one has access to dispel magic.
No.
Nope.
I have no abjuration magic whatsoever.
I have counterspell, but that only works if it's a spell being cast.
Yeah.
Major image wouldn't fix that either.
No.
We can make it look like there's no fire.
And then you walk through it and get burned to death.
The power of the mind.
Oh my goodness.
Does our good friend Kazimir have dispel magic? Is he gonna Deus Ex Machina this for us?
I'm handy with a scroll, but I don't have any magic of my own.
I guess that's the end of our cart's journey.
All right. Everyone, get a pack put together.
What are we doing with the horse?
Leave it to its own devices. I can leave the cart here, give the horse a better chance of running.
Sounds good.
Bafuur will speak to the horse, tell it to go home.
Okay.
So are we climbing this mountain?
I was figuring climb around the wall.
Which side?
Depends on how much of a fall you would like to have.
I have an idea.
Yes.
Leven, can you take bags with you when you do that thing you just did?
Yes.
I think it'd be easier on us climbing over if we just had you poof the bags onto the other side and we'll just climb over so we don't have to have them on our backs.
I can do that.
That's a good point.
Might help us out a little.
I also have a rope.
I think I've got a rope somewhere too.
Look at that. And she'll pop back up to the top and she'll pull rope out of her bag and tie it. It looks like there's some handy dandy spikes even that I can use to anchor, right?
Yes, and as you start tying,
Uh-oh.
we're gonna see what happens next time on Fireside Dice.
Thank you all so much for joining us in this episode of Fireside Dice. This show is produced by Realms of Roleplaying. Intro and outro music was created by Alexander Nakarada of Serpent Sound Studios, and all other sound effects and music were created by Monument Studios. We'll see you all in the next episode.